Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the show. This show is about Hurricane Dorian. It's a new hurricane. It's not very old. It went down and touched the edge of the Dominican Republic, and now it's heading toward Florida. So we're going to take an in-depth look at this hurricane right now. And anyway, well, today I'll tell you what time it is. It's 7:37 here, August 29th, 2019. Got a couple days until the hurricane hits Florida, so let's take a look. Let's open up the charts right here and take a look at what we got. Now, first thing I want to show you is the hurricane wind. This is where it's been. This is the wind field. Now, one of the things I wanted to point out to you guys is this particular hurricane has quite a small, compact hurricane force wind field. It's not very big at all. It's the center of this orange, this yellowish orange area is the tropical storm force wind field. And in the center of that, you see almost a red colored area. That is the actual hurricane force winds. And it's rather small. It's a rather small, tight system. But that doesn't mean it's not going to grow over the next few days as that wind field fills out and it moves into more warmer waters. Now, let's take a look at where it's going. Right now, the current location is 22.5 degrees north and 67.7 degrees west. Maximum sustained winds of 85 miles an hour. It's moving northwest at 13 miles an hour, which is quite fast forward movement. And they've changed, from the National Hurricane Center, they've changed the outlook a little bit. It was yesterday looking more like it was going to head up around Jacksonville, make landfall around Jacksonville. Today they've moved it farther south. It looks like it's just north of Lake Okeechobee, somewhere just south of Daytona Beach, and right in there, probably around Cape Canaveral. That's where I would say it looks like it's going to make landfall, and it's going to head up toward Orlando. That by today's chart. Now, if we take a look here at more information here, we can see that this is basically where the winds are headed toward. Now, the hurricane force wind field is not near that large. It's that purple area, but it's probably about half that size, but it's going to grow larger as the days progress. Now, here it shows a good idea of where it's aiming at on Florida. This is the hurricane force wind speed probabilities. And here is the hurricane itself. And we can see at times a distinct eye starting to develop. If we take a look at this radar imagery here, we can possibly see a better look of the eye. Just a second. Okay, here we go. Now that little red dot, if you look at the hurricane, it's a round circle. It's kind of orangish, reddish color. And you see a little red dot develop in the last few frames, probably the last 3 or 4 frames. I'll focus in on it with my picture here. I'll try to focus in on it for you guys. So I'll show you what I'm talking about. Come down in, and we'll take a tighter look at the hurricane itself. And you can see that little red dot develops. That's probably very, very close to the eye. Another thing I notice about here is there's a little bit more wind shear today. The high cloud tops are being sheared off toward the east coast of the United States. It's probably trade winds, and that tends to be negative for hurricanes' growth and development. Wind shear. It's one of their biggest enemies. But this hurricane, despite the wind shear, is forecast to intensify. So let's open the charts back up and take a look and see how much we think it's going to intensify. Now, I want to say one more thing. This radar image of this hurricane, the satellite image of this hurricane right here, it shows a much more well-defined storm than yesterday. It's got better circulation all the way around the storm on all of the quadrants of the storm. There's 4 quadrants to the storm. All of them look like they got much better circulation. The cloud tops look much cooler today. It looks like they're much higher, larger cumulonimbus type clouds are feeding this hurricane, and so we're seeing growth and development of this storm. and of course the wind field's going to grow as the storm grows. So there's your satellite imagery of the storm. Let's go back to Central Florida Hurricane Center, and we're going to take a look at the computer modeling. Now, what we can see is the guidance picked by the National Hurricane Center is mostly in the center of the computer guidance. And it looks like a number of the computer models have been deviating toward the end of the period. They run it for a certain number of days, the computer model, and it looks like there's quite a few deviating patterns. It looks like when it gets around the coast of Florida, that the trade winds aren't quite as well. Let's just put it this way: it's probably going to follow the course that's laid out by the National Hurricane Center, and they're in the center of the model guidance for now. But we'll have to wait when it gets toward the coast of Florida to see if there's any changes in this model guidance. Here is the storm developing, and we can see the pressure. It's dropped to 996 millibars. Earlier on the last forecast, it was also 996. It looks like the pressure's actually risen a little bit. It looks like it was 991, and now it's 99, or is that 986? I gotta get my glasses on. Honest to goodness, guys. Anyway, it's quite a significantly low pressure for a Category 1. It's anyway. So this is what we can expect over the next couple days. It's going to chart toward Florida. And you guys, if you're in Central Florida, this is going to be probably a major hurricane with wind speeds of 130 miles an hour sustained. Of course, you're going to have gusts a little bit stronger, and it looks like it's heading in the area just north of Lake Okeechobee, probably around Cape Canaveral. It looks like it's going to make landfall, which is just south of Daytona Beach a little ways. And it's quite a fast moving storm, so you haven't got a whole lot of time to prepare. If you get advised by the government to leave your area, you're probably better to listen to the authorities on these matters. It's probably a good time to make preparations too if you live anywhere near the coastline, right in that area. Batteries are a good thing to buy. Have flashlights. Bottled water, great thing to have. Some candy bars and a little bit of things like potato chips and stuff are good to have. And clear out of low-lying areas. Vitally important that you shouldn't be in a low-lying area. Higher ground is always better in a hurricane. Another thing about hurricanes is never go outside in a storm. Of course, you guys know that. Absolutely by no means. Tornadoes travel inside hurricanes. Generally, there's many tornadoes inside a hurricane. You go outside, you could get picked up by a tornado. Tornadoes, when they're traveling inside the hurricane itself, they're generally shrouded in rain, so you can't see them. They're in the rain. And they're not like your typical tornado that's not inside a hurricane. A tornado, when it's outside a hurricane, it moves along at its own pace. A tornado inside a hurricane moves very quickly because the wind speeds inside the hurricane are like 100 miles an hour, so the tornado's moving 100 miles an hour. There's advantages and disadvantages to that. One, if something were to happen, if you were to say, like, I'm going to run out to my car right now, I left something in my car, and you run out there, one of these 100-mile-an-hour moving tornadoes could zip, bang, grab you, and you're up into the clouds. Take you up 1,000 feet. Drop you. Just like that. You wouldn't even have time. That's if the regular hurricane force winds get you. So you got to stay inside during hurricanes. It's always best to have the strongest, safest place you can find, like a high school gymnasium or someplace like that. Someplace that if you're unsure if your house is going to make it through, you don't know if you got hurricane anchors on your house, you're down near the water, and your house is built not that well, and you're right near the coastline and everything else, and they're advising you to evacuate, you're probably better to listen to the authorities on things like this. Anyway, like I say, there's advantages and disadvantages to a tornado inside a hurricane. One of the advantages is it does move so fast. So it can come and actually hit your house, and it's like the hot potato syndrome. If you don't hold a hot potato in your hand very long, you don't tend to get burned as much as if you hold it in your hand. Now, picture a tornado out in the Midwest or someplace, and it's creeping along real slowly. It comes on top of your house, and it just basically sits there for a few seconds and tears your house to ribbons. Whereas a tornado that's inside a hurricane is moving like 100 miles an hour, so it's only going to be on your house for maybe 1 or 2 seconds rather than 30 seconds. That makes a difference, obviously, you know. But still, even a tornado inside a hurricane still has the potential to tear your roof off and rip out all the interior of the house. And if you're inside the house, I mean, you know. So this is what happened during which hurricane was it that hit South Florida? I can't remember the name of it now. Was it David? I can't remember the name of it now, but it ripped most everyone's roof off. They were down near the water, and it was a major hurricane like this one. So this is going to be very serious. Thank you guys for listening. Like and subscribe, and we'll catch you in the next hurricane update. Bye-bye, guys.